In the quiet dawn of a sleepy suburban street, where the first rays of sunlight painted the world in soft gold, a single dad named Jack Thompson stood frozen at his front door. His heart pounded like a war drum as two stern military officers in crisp uniforms stared back at him, their expressions unreadable. "Mr. Thompson," one said gravely, "we're here about your daily breakfast deliveries." Jack's mind raced. Had his simple act of kindness unraveled some hidden secret from his past? Little did he know, this moment would change everything, revealing a bond forged in sacrifice and love that spanned decades. If this story touches your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of everyday heroes that remind us of the power of compassion, because you never know when kindness comes full circle. Jack was 38, a rugged man with calloused hands from his job as a mechanic, but his eyes held the weary softness of someone who'd lost too much too soon. 5 years earlier, his wife, Emily, had passed away from a sudden illness, leaving him to raise their daughter, Lily, alone. Lily was just 7 now, a bright-eyed girl with her mother's curly hair and an infectious laugh that could light up the darkest days. But those days had been dark indeed. Jack worked long hours at the auto shop, scraping by on meager paychecks that barely covered rent, bills, and the little extras that made life bearable for a child. Mornings were a rush, packing Lily's lunch, braiding her hair, and somehow finding time to brew coffee. Yet, every single day without fail, Jack carved out a few precious minutes for one ritual that had become his anchor, delivering breakfast to the elderly woman next door. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes was 82, a frail widow who lived in the faded blue house with peeling paint and overgrown roses climbing the fence. She'd moved in a year after Emily's death, when Jack was at his lowest, drowning in grief and isolation. One rainy morning, he'd noticed her struggling with her groceries, her thin arms trembling under the weight. Without a word, he helped her inside, and in return, she offered him a cup of tea and stories of her own losses, her husband gone to cancer, her only son far away in the military. That day sparked something in Jack. The next morning, he showed up at her door with a simple plate, scrambled eggs, toast, and fresh fruit from the market. "Just thought you might like a warm start to the day," he'd said sheepishly. Eleanor had smiled, her eyes misty, and from then on, it became daily. Rain or shine, Jack brought breakfast, sometimes pancakes with blueberries when Lily insisted on helping, other times oatmeal with honey when money was tight. At first, it was just neighborly kindness, a way for Jack to feel useful amid his own chaos. But as weeks turned to months, it deepened into something profound. Eleanor became a grandmother figure to Lily, teaching her to knit scarves and sharing tales of old adventures. For Jack, she was a confidant, listening without judgment as he poured out his fears, the mounting medical bills from Lily's asthma treatments, the guilt of not being enough for his daughter, the loneliness that crept in at night. "You're doing right by her, Jack," Eleanor would say, her voice steady like an old oak. "Kindness isn't about perfection, it's about showing up." In return, Eleanor opened up about her son, Captain Robert Hayes, a Marine who'd served tours in distant lands. She worried endlessly about him, letters arriving sporadically, each one a lifeline. Jack saw his own vulnerabilities mirrored in her, two souls adrift, finding harbor in each other's company. But life, as it often does, threw curveballs. Jack's challenges mounted like storm clouds. The auto shop laid off workers, including him, forcing him to take odd jobs, fixing cars in driveways, mowing lawns, anything to keep food on the table. Lily's asthma worsened with the changing seasons, leading to emergency room visits that drained his savings. One particularly brutal winter, he caught the flu, bedridden for days, but still, he dragged himself out of bed at dawn to prepare Eleanor's breakfast. "Dad, why do you do it?" Lily asked one morning, her small hand tugging his sleeve. "Because, kiddo," he replied, forcing a smile, "sometimes helping someone else is the best way to help yourself." Deep down, though, doubt gnawed at him. Was he neglecting his daughter for this ritual? Could he keep it up when everything felt like it was crumbling? Eleanor faced her own trials. Her health declined, arthritis made simple tasks agony, and isolation amplified her anxiety about Robert. News from the front lines grew scarcer, and rumors of escalating conflicts in the Middle East filled the airwaves. One evening, as Jack sat with her over tea, she confessed her deepest fear: what if he doesn't come home? I've buried one man I loved, I can't bear another. Jack held her hand, his rough palm against her fragile one, and promised, you're not alone in this, Eleanor. We're family now. That bond sustained them through the hardships. When Jack's unemployment benefits ran dry, Eleanor slipped him envelopes of cash from her pension, insisting it was just repayment for all those breakfasts. When Lily had a severe asthma attack, Eleanor sat by her bedside in the hospital, reading stories until Jack could arrive from a late-night shift. The turning point came on a crisp autumn morning, about 2 years into their routine. Jack, as always, balanced a tray with Eggs Benedict, his special treat for Eleanor's birthday, and knocked on her door. No answer. Panic rising, he let himself in with the spare key she'd given him. There she was, slumped in her armchair, pale and unresponsive. Heart attack, the paramedics said later. Jack rode with her to the hospital, Lily in tow, his world tilting on its axis. Please, God, he whispered in the waiting room, don't take her too. Hours stretched like eternity, but Eleanor pulled through, barely. The doctors warned it was touch and go, she needed round-the-clock care, but nursing homes were expensive, and her insurance fell short. Jack didn't hesitate. He turned his living room into a makeshift bedroom for her, wheeling in a hospital bed and learning to administer medications. Lily helped, drawing pictures to brighten the walls. It was exhausting, nights blurred into days, juggling care with job hunts and school runs. Friends urged him to stop. You're a single dad, Jack, you can't save everyone. But he couldn't abandon her. She's given me hope when I had none, he told them. Challenges piled on, bills skyrocketed, sleep became a luxury, and Jack's own health suffered from the stress. One night, after Lily's bedtime, he broke down in the kitchen, tears mixing with the dishwater. Why does it have to be so hard, he muttered. Yet, in those moments, Eleanor's quiet strength pulled him back. From her bed, she'd share memories of Robert's bravery, inspiring Jack to press on. Heroes aren't born, dear, she'd say. They're made in the quiet acts no one sees. Resolution flickered like dawn light. Jack landed a steady job at a new garage, thanks to a recommendation from a customer he'd helped pro bono. Lily's asthma stabilized with better medication, funded by a community fundraiser Eleanor had secretly organized from her sickbed, rallying neighbors with her stories. And Eleanor? She regained strength, her spirit unbroken. The breakfasts continued, now shared at Jack's table, a symbol of their unbreakable family. Then came that fateful morning, the one that hooked you at the start. Jack opened his door to the military officers, their badges gleaming. His mind flashed to worst-case scenarios. Had something happened to Robert? Was there trouble? The lead officer, a colonel with a kind face hidden under stern lines, cleared his throat. Mr. Thompson, we've been sent by Captain Robert Hayes. He's alive and well, just returned from deployment. Jack's knees weakened. Robert? But how? The story unfolded like a long-lost letter. Years ago, during Jack's brief stint in the reserves before Emily's illness pulled him home, he'd served in the same unit as Robert. In a chaotic ambush overseas, Robert had saved Jack's life, dragging him to safety under fire. Jack had never known the full details, trauma-blurred memories, but Robert had tracked him down through military records after hearing his mother's stories about the kind neighbor who brought breakfast daily. Eleanor, in her letters to Robert, had painted Jack as a hero in his own right, detailing his struggles and unwavering support. Touched, Robert had pulled strings. The officers were there to present Jack with a commendation for civilian valor, recognizing his quiet heroism at home. But more than that, Robert himself stepped from behind them, tall and weathered, embracing his mother who waited inside. Tears flowed freely that day. Robert, home at last, revealed he'd been coordinating aid, a fund for Lily's education, help with medical bills, even a job offer for Jack in veteran services. "You took care of my mom when I couldn't," Robert said, voice thick with emotion. "Now let me return the favor." The neighborhood gathered, turning the surprise into a celebration of second chances. As the sun set on that transformative day, Jack reflected on the journey. From loss to connection, hardship to hope, his simple act of kindness had woven a tapestry of lives unbreakable. Eleanor, beaming beside her son, whispered, "See, Jack? Kindness always comes full circle." And so, dear viewers, remember, in a world full of chaos, one small act can spark a chain of miracles. If this story moved you, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got more inspiring tales coming your way. Who knows? Your next act of kindness might just change someone's world.